Oh shit. I stood on the quad. That was an amazing start, wasn't it?
Oh yes. All night.
You need some tech help?
I'm going to do 2 demos, so maybe we'll get. Hello everyone. All right, there we go. Hopefully clicker will work. Okay. Hello everyone. How's everyone?
Steve.
I kind of know like a quarter of you. That's probably just testament to the fact that I've now been doing it. In 2 weeks' time, I would have been doing what I'm doing for like a year, which goes ridiculously quick. Like time in this job moves so weirdly. I cannot even describe it. It'll be 3 to 4 months before I see any one person again. Like, I'm like, hey, haven't seen you since. And literally for me, it's like yesterday. For them, it's like, yeah, it was like 3 months ago. So I am, of course, Stephen Cooper, also known as Developer Steve, like everywhere, even on Weibo, which for those that don't know is Chinese Facebook. I'm one of those rare creatures called an evangelist, which is actually starting to, there's a few of us now in Australia, which is amazing, because when I first started a year ago, it was literally going out telling people what that actually is. But first, when I first told my family I'm doing it, they're like, oh, you see you're preaching something? And I'm like, no. I'm literally going out, hanging out with developers, sponsoring conferences, literally geeking out with devs, just like I am tonight. Like I am a developer, this is what I do, like I do code. But yeah, interesting, I've now been, in 2 weeks' time, I've been doing this a year, and I kind of looked at my TripIt score to see how many kilometers I've done. By the end of this month, 250,000 kilometers in a year. I kind of stopped and looked at it, yeah, that would be about right. It's a big world.
You got frequent flyer miles to get to the moon on that.
Yeah, but you have a lot of frequent flyer. The problem is with frequent flyer miles, when you rack up so many, is you don't really want to go anywhere. I have an Xbox and a family up the coast, so it's kind of like, yeah.
Oh, shame on you.
Anyway.
You just need to buy a PlayStation 4.
I'm going in Japan in 3 weeks for
Done.
Battle Hack, and I was thinking, I could buy one there. They're like $200. It's so cheap.
Oh.
Tempted. Might bring it back. I don't know. But so yeah, I'm a developer advocate, developer evangelist for PayPal and Braintree, which is really cool. And everyone knows PayPal. I mean, we've all got an account, know of an account. We've all used it as developers. I'm sure we've all touched the APIs at some point in time. Now, I'm not sales or marketing, but I saw this next slide in one of the presentation decks recently, and I kind of went, yeah, that's pretty sizable. We do that much processing of payments per minute globally, to give you an idea how much PayPal does process. And we all know that PayPal does process a lot of stuff, but we do that every minute. A quarter of that is on mobile. So just to give you an idea how important mobile is, as developers, mobile is really important. And I'm sure we all know that. Responsive websites, like for the win, Google recently just stopped supporting non-mobile websites in searches. So as we've all seen, everyone was making a big fuss about it. It's like, really? Haven't got a responsive website? Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that tonight. So a company you may not be too familiar with is Braintree. How many people know of Braintree? Okay, most of these people are people I know. But yeah, so Braintree, really cool. It's like a back-end merchant gateway. Users won't know they're using it, or usually they won't know they're using it. Using things like Uber, Airbnb, GitHub, just to name drop. I like name dropping. And really cool, like if anyone's done the Uber experience, vaulted payments. Like you just literally set up an account, attach a payment method, and that's it. You get in a car, you get out of a car, and a transaction happens. Like it's literally magic. So going to do a few demos, just a basic demo to show you how easy it is to integrate Braintree. Literally 12 lines of code to do a basic transaction. And I kid you not, big PayPal fan for many years, still am, because not only because it's my job, but the integration for Braintree, amazingly cool. So let's attempt the demo, gods. So first demo, this is the first one. All right, I'm going to make this a lot bigger because no one can see that. So I'm using Ruby and Sinatra. This is my gem file, really easy. I'm just calling in, of course, Braintree, Sinatra, and I've got awesome print just to show you the dump variables because that makes it look prettier. So inside my app file, that's better. Of course, I'm requiring Braintree and I'm requiring Sinatra. I've got my merchant credentials. Everyone can steal them. Yes, I know. Set up at the top of this file. inside the root route, I'm calling in, I'm doing a token generate from Braintree. This just goes into the drop-in UI, some JavaScript that I'll show you in a minute. Keeps it all really, really secure, really, really nice to load. We'll go through that. And once I'll go through the next bit in a minute. So inside the index, of course, I'm calling in a JavaScript library, the Braintree JavaScript library. And down here, in this little bit of JavaScript then to initiate it, I'm attaching a drop-in UI to a container called checkout and dropping in a token. Really easy. That's it. That'll generate a nice little payment box. Lets me take PayPal and credit card all in one little integration. When it comes here to Apple Pay, Bitcoin, anytime we add a new wallet in and it's available to Australia, it basically appears in the drop-in UI. Really cool. Anyway, enough talk. I'll do the code. That's better. So I'm just going to launch. Launch Sinatra. I like memes. So I'm going to do a payment for $123.45. So this is the little bit of JavaScript I dropped in. That's what loaded. So I can do credit card, I can do PayPal. The PayPal doesn't redirect you away, it actually loads in line, so user doesn't leave your website. Really cool. I use credit card for this one. No one steal my number. And submit payment. Now, when that submits, that drop-in UI is basically setting those credentials off to the Braintree server and returning a payment method nonce into a hidden field and attaching it to the payment form. That's then posted over as part of the form submit, and I use that to process the transaction. What that looks like in the code is this right here. So I'm expecting two values to be posted over, the amount, which is important, and then a payment method nonce, which is in the hidden field, and that's it. That's all it is. The easiest demo I ever do. So I thought I'd step it up a bit. Now this is the first time I've demoed this one. So a few days ago, we actually announced a new thing called hosted fields. Hosted fields are basically similar to the drop-in UI, except you can basically embed PCI compliant form fields inside any form you want and do exactly the same thing, just without the paper button. So exactly the same way, except I'm calling in a different JavaScript library, which at the moment is still in a beta trial, and slightly different JavaScript. So just like before, I'm generating a client token, and then I attach those to a form called hosted form, and then I specify which form inputs I want to basically be the input for the credit card form. So what that looks like, and I'll show you some of the things that does. I should probably shut down the other server first. Shut down that one. And then go back to... So everything else is basically exactly the same. It's just a different front end to it. So the good thing about the hosted fields is I can get all these different calls back from it as well. So I can determine whether the user's entered a wrong credit card number, whether they've entered a wrong expiry date, like a wrong CVV. I get back all these calls as part of JavaScript. So I can basically interact with the user and say, no, that's wrong, like this. So if I enter a right credit card, it basically knows what credit card. I get a call back from the JavaScript library to say, using Visa, no, that's wrong, equals false. I can cover that all inside the code, which, if I went to the right one, it's basically returned as part of the JavaScript call. So really, really cool, really flexible, and they're all PCI compliant. So once you go to live, like there's nothing else you need to do. They're all hosted on actual Braintree servers. So they're literally has just been launched. Bill Reddy was literally just talking about this yesterday. I retweeted it. But yeah, ready to use now. So good to go. I'll do a transaction. I can show you what this actually looks like. See, you can get a callback for every single one. But I'll do a proper one now.
Perfect.
See what I did there? So I'm not specifying an amount from this one. I'm handling that inside the code itself. And where's my? Yeah, so I'm actually just entering it inside manually in this one. Is that going to work? Oh, yeah, there it goes. Ta-da. I think it worked. We'll say it did. Woohoo! But yeah, really, really cool. And again, this is really easy to set up. So that's Braintree. But I'm going to talk to you today about Internet of Things, which is really, really cool because it's a full stack dev. It takes my online world and moves it offline and allows me to interface with users in whole new ways. Also allows them to break things in whole new ways, but that's a whole other story because users, right? But for the most part, I'm going to knock that cord out again. For the most part, for me, the internet began here in 1969 when researchers connected two computers host to host for the very first time. Now, interesting fact about this, the third letter that was sent across that really early internet broke the internet. So they connected host to host on the phone to each other saying, yep, can you see it, can you see it? One types L, sees it on the other computer, types O, sees it on the other computer, types G, crash, blue screen of death, or whatever they had at the time. From those humble beginnings, basically spawned our entire digital universe, and we all work in it, we play in it, we do everything in this one wonderful world, which did not, there we go. It has become our digital universe, and we basically reshape it as we see fit. We rebuild this world as we need to for whatever purpose we need. Everyone remember when social media started to be boom, like about, what, 5 years ago? I think everyone started throwing fruit at each other and doing all sorts of weird things on Facebook. That was basically us repurposing the internet to suit our needs. We reshaped our digital universe for a new purpose. We repurposed it, to quote a Tron saying, Tron. But we found a limitation. The limitation is there's a screen, there's a barrier between us and our digital universe. We can't fully be immersed into our digital world. We really, really want to. It's become such a wonderful place, and it's a big place, and we add to it regularly, like it's constantly growing. If you think of the internet as a growing thing, like it grows literally by the millisecond. The more data we keep putting into it, the more interfaces we create, literally creates more realms inside our universe. And augmented reality, which I absolutely love, and mobile usage in Australia is amazingly high. I'm not so sure about augmented reality though, but it's literally just a window into a world that we cannot feel, we cannot touch. It's become, just like Alice in Wonderland, it's become a barrier between us and our digital universe. Virtual reality, again, another way for us to trick ourselves into thinking we're part of that digital world. I only got this yesterday. Literally just got this yesterday, $20 off eBay. Put my phone inside it and I can do that. Well, this has sensors in it, this kind of doesn't. But really, really cheap way for us to get involved in it, like to think that we're part of the digital universe. The first thing my brain wants to do with this stuff is literally try and touch it. Like there's nothing for me to touch, there's nothing for me to feel. It's still just a window into a digital world that I can't be fully immersed into. Welcome to the Internet of Things. I hope you all took the red pill. So I'm going to talk through some ways that I've seen some really good commercialization of IoT and sort of ways that I think it's really going to change. Well, it's going to change the world around us. Before I do that, love this quote I just love this quote. The three most dangerous things in the world are a programmer with a soldering iron, a hardware engineer with a software patch, and a user with an idea. That last one, right? At barbecues, we all know it. I've got the greatest idea ever. You're like, yep. So the first thing I saw this one like about a year ago, just under a year ago. The Nixie. The Nixie is amazing. This was actually an entry in an Intel hackathon, and it was shortlisted. It made the top 20 from that hackathon, and then went on to win. But it didn't need to win. It would have had my money. It's a wearable drone, and we're starting to see more and more of these now starting to come out. But this was basically started out as a pair of glasses in the IoT hackathon. You can tell that, right? ended up becoming a wearable drone, basically a watch that you snap off and you launch, and it basically follows you around the room taking pictures of you. It's the ultimate selfie stick. And not only that, it connects to your phone via Bluetooth Low Energy, and you can control it, so you can actually fly it around and do all sorts of weird and crazy things with it. Now, everyone remember when smartphones got the really good cameras in them that you could take to conferences, concerts, and sort of hold up, and you'd see literally like a sea of hands. A sea of hands of people holding up phones like devices. We're going to have swarms of Nixies flying around conferences, around concerts. There's literally going to be drone battles and no-fly zones. It's going to be a thing. Once these things start to commercialize, like once people start to get a taste for it, and like these things, they're going to literally fly off the shelf. Haha. There's no stopping like commercialism once it takes off. That was another one. I didn't even mean for that one. This one's really cool. Now, extra points to anyone that can tell me what this is from, but this is Brad the toaster. So Brad will do everything he can to get you to have toast. It'll wiggle its little handle, it'll vibrate on the desk, it'll make a whole bunch of noise. If you keep ignoring Brad long enough, it'll contact other Brad the toasters in the area to find out how often they're having toast. You still keep ignoring Brad. It'll contact the postal service and get itself delivered to a new owner. So great. Anyone know what show this is from, based on? Oh, Red Dwarf. Oh, okay. I always get a mixed result to that. Some people are like, oh, you're Red Dwarf. And you're like, oh. And then, yeah, it was in New Zealand and 3 places didn't. Anyway. But yeah, this great example of IoT being in things all around us and affecting our lives in whole ways, and in ways we may not necessarily be aware of. And this one's really cool. This one I found in a makerspace in Singapore. This is a smart table, a connected table. Literally off the shelf, IKEA $60 table with some Arduino built into it. And you put advertising material on the table at road shows or whatever. As people take the material off, it detects how much is left and then contacts you, sends you an alert when it starts to run out. Not only that, if you pick it up off the floor, an alarm will sound and it will alert everyone so that it's being picked up off the floor. Yeah, and you never know what you're actually going to find at makerspaces. I was down the makerspace in Melbourne in January. Did a talk down there. Got to see some of the projects I'm working on. Walked past a full-size mech sitting on the floor in a corner somewhere, and I'm like, why have you got a full-size mech? And they're like, oh, someone wanted to make one, so they did. I was like, okay, sure. Makerspaces. You never know what you're going to find. So one thing I always tell devs is by 2020, 50 billion IoT devices on the planet. Like, there's so many ways that you can monetize it, so many ways you can offer new services to people. These things will know more about users than ever before. Now, gone are the days of trying to guess, what demographics on web page or whatever else. Like, IoT is going to know more about your users than they know about themselves. Basically 26 smart objects for every single person on the planet by 2020. So there's all sorts of ways that you'll be able to connect to that via websites, via mobile apps, even from other IoT devices to be able to offer new services, new products, customized services and products even, in whole new ways. Interestingly though, IoT isn't just related to hardware. I read a really, really interesting article. Tim O'Reilly did this article a few months ago, and I started reading it. It was about IoT, and it's my geek topic. And he started talking about Uber being an IoT company, and I was just like, wait, that's not hardware. But it kind of dawned on me, he wasn't talking about IoT as being a hardware, but being a service, being a disruptive service. So Uber, for example, the payment system inside that being a disruptive service, and I was like, hey, wait, that's Braintree. Doesn't get mentioned in the article at all, but he talks about basically Uber, the way Uber has revolutionized taxis all over the world by the simplistic nature of the payments. And I was like, oh wow, yeah, Braintree. But yeah, it did, sort of at the bottom of the article, I was still pondering the fact that IoT isn't hardware. I was like, wow, how can that be? But it is true, like a disruptive, the way that they've disrupted payments has basically changed the taxi industry the world over. Before that, there was no one way for me to get out of an airport in Japan and book a taxi. I'd have to go to the taxi rank and try and find the taxi rank, go to the taxi rank, get in the taxi. Now I just get out the phone and Uber. It works everywhere, it works literally in every country I can fly into, and I can use the same payment method. It's awesome. But yeah, as an IoT app, it was like a whole new concept, and I think that's something we're still kind of looking at. Of course, at the end of the day, you won't know whether you're dealing with a user, with a fridge, and I love this quote. In the Internet of Things, no one will know you're a fridge. So you won't know if you're being trolled by your toaster anymore.
No, Brad, why?
So these are ways that my global team, so around the world, there's I come from a team of 8, or 9 if you count my manager as well, but here's some ways that we've integrated payments into basically IoT objects, IoT hardware objects, I should say now. So first up from Spain, my colleague Alberto produced a candy machine, which is actually kind of similar to the 2 winners from Battle Hack Sydney sitting down the front. Yes, I'm going to single you out again. Produced something similar with a vending machine that would sit in a park and basically use an app to rent sports equipment from. Door opens up, takes sports equipment out. Similar type concept, using Braintree, you basically do a payment, door opens up, candy comes out. And it sends you a tweet just to make sure you're having guilt-free candy. The Twitter thing is optional, of course. It will dob you in. There's that credit card number again. That credit card number does have limited credit, sandbox credit, just saying. So we put through transaction, that was using, of course, Braintree v0. It sends you a tweet, just to make sure you're extra guilty, and candy. So that's using a Spark core and yeah, just a responsive mobile website. Really simple. And of course ngrok, which is amazing for demo. My other colleague out of Brazil produced a radio control car that you can rent using an app and then drive around using an app. And of course, IoT being IoT, this wonderfully produced camera sort of stuck through the windscreen most elegantly. Yay, IoT. But yeah, this is a great way to show IoT commerce, IoT integration into the real world, into the everyday world, to produce a whole new experience for users. So you can actually rent this car, drive it around, and you pay for it using PayPal. And that's using a Raspberry Pi and Arduino. I don't know if many of you have used, how many of you used Raspberry Pi before? Yeah. They tend to get a little bit power hungry, but really, really great if you're doing sort of an interactive type display, I've always found. So one thing that I've taken around a bit, and I've integrated this in a different sort of way to the other 2 projects, and I'll talk more about that, is an IoT receipt printer. So as soon as an order comes in on a website or a mobile app, basically a receipt prints out, and yeah, that's it. The user case for this is basically sitting inside a cafe. You can have it sitting on a shelf. It's using an Arduino Yuan, just a thermal printer, completely off the shelf, about 120 bucks for all of it, 99 cents for the high quality cardboard box. And yeah, a really great way to make a very portable, very cheap receipt printer that works without anyone needing to. Someone trying to talk to me. Really great way to interact with the digital space without anyone needing to do anything to it. So I basically produced this. I created this before I came out. Before I went on my first international trip in about a year ago, September last year, before I went to New Zealand, to PHP New Zealand. And I upgraded it into this wonderful little high quality cardboard box, put an LCD panel in the front, Arduino Yuan, had all the box nicely laid out, looked a little something like that, then looked at the box and thought, I've got to take this through international customs. Thankfully, I wasn't stopped. It went through 7 countries, some of them a few times over, the US like 4 or 5 times. Didn't get stopped, thankfully. It did go into check-in luggage, so I wasn't going to risk that on the plane. But yeah, there's a few moments I kind of looked and went, yeah, it's going to be fun. It did well. I retired it a few months ago because I burnt out the LCD. It has a little printer pot. Wait, laser working? Little printer pot just here. Little dimmer switch, sorry. That basically regulates the voltage going to the LCD, and I put in the LCD so that in larger audiences you could sort of see something was happening and it was all nice and flashy. I lost that in somewhere and needed to do a demo with it. So I jury-rigged it to go straight into the UN and then simulated the voltage out to the actual LCD. May have set the value a little bit too high and one side of it kind of darkened and I was like, oops. IoT is generally rather forgiving, this time it was not. It did well. So really basic demo of how this works. There's two sides. I've got the website side and the hardware side. On the website, HTML and JS. I've got two different versions of this, so Ruby and PHP. And API-wise or SDK-wise, I'm using Braintree client token and just doing a transaction. Basically exactly the same as what I just did in the front demo. Hardware side, I'm using a PHP cron on a UN, which I'll talk about why, and a C++ sketch. C++ is amazing, except if you're dealing with variable types. And I'm doing Braintree transaction search. This doesn't use a database. This uses Braintree to actually store the information inside a transaction and then just pull it back out on the hardware. So there's no database in between the two. So the basic website, it's literally just what I went through earlier. I'm pulling in Braintree. Oh, this is using, oh no, that's right. So I'm using Braintree inside Ruby and then generating a client token, dropping that into the JavaScript, create the little drop-in UI, and processing the transaction. The thing that's different in this demo is I'm actually storing cart data inside what's known as a custom field. So unlike PayPal APIs, which allow you to store cart data, in Braintree it doesn't do that because it doesn't work that way. What I'm doing instead is I'm basically creating a JSON string using JavaScript, passing that over and then storing it inside a custom field, which you can name anything you want. I'm just calling it cart in this demo, and then I store a JSON string inside the transaction. Literally I have, when I pull the transaction back out on the hardware, I have a list of everything that the users put into their cart, including a total, GST, tax, like anything I need to put in there, and then I output that onto a receipt. Easy. And that's what it looks like. And you can literally name those anything you want. You can store anything you want in them. There was some guys at BattleHack London recently that was using that to store documents inside. Don't know why, but they did and they could. And of course, step 3 is profit. Underpants moves. So the hardware. Anyone used a UN before? So the UN, when I was looking at using like a number of what board was I going to get, where to start? It's a IoT board world. It's a big world. And I was originally looking at the Arduino Uno. Arduino is kind of one of the more common platforms inside the IoT world. The Uno was one of the popular ones. Well, it still kind of is. The problem with the Uno is it doesn't have internet, and you know, I needed internet. The good thing with the UN is it comes with built-in Wi-Fi, all in the same size little board, and it's all built in. It's about double the price. So normally you'd get like an Uno and then put Shield on top, and like they're about $40 each. Get like this little stack of circuits. Whereas with the UN, it's about the same price. You get everything all contained in one little board. There's two sides to the UN. So there's a Linux side on this side, that's a Arduino, and then the Arduino side that basically interfaces your pins, does all your outputting or gets data in from sensors or whatnot. And then in between the two we have this bridge. So the idea is you do your calculations, pulling stuff from the website on the Linux side, which is basically, it's running OpenWRT, it's like a scaled down server. You then pass variables into the bridge, which the Arduino side can access, and vice versa. If you've got data coming in from rain gauges or heat sensors, you grab stuff in through the Arduino side via the pins, and then pass into the bridge, and the Arduino and the Linux side can pull that back out and do something meaningful with it, pass it to a website, calculation, push button stuff back, etc., etc. The bridge is fantastic if you want to turn lights on and off. Anything beyond that, just the latency will kill you. I pulled my hair out for about 40 hours trying to work out the latency with this, especially passing large chunks of text data through, like receipt data. So originally what I tried to do was, from the Linux side, was I contact a website or web service, contact Braintree, pull down transaction information, pass text data into the bridge, and then output to printer to wherever I needed to go to LCDs, etc. The latency that I was getting in the bridge though was just, ugh. So, oh, that doesn't matter. See, IoT at work, right? So the only problem with that was the Arduino side was seeing that there was a variable being loaded or being available to print. Like it was going, hey, there's something to print, great, I'm going to grab it and print. And a blank row would come out. What was happening was the time it was taking to transfer all the text data in the Arduino side, it realized that there was something to print, tried to print it, and there was nothing to print. And the second time I tried to print, it would print something from the first time. Like it was, the latency was driving me nuts. What I ended up doing was creating my own bridge using SQLite, which works fine. So basically I have an SQLite database doing exactly the same thing the bridge should theoretically do, only because there's less latency, it's a lot quicker for it to work with. So on the Linux side, I basically poll the Braintree transaction search to find the latest transaction. I then store inside SQLite a list of all the transactions by transaction ID, and so I pull down the transaction, see if it's a new one. If it's not, then it adds it, marks it as ready to print. On the Arduino side, it sees that, opens up a file with the matching print ID, and accesses all the decompiled JSON string I'm pulling down as part of the transaction and dumping out into a file. Essentially, I had to create my own bridge to do it. I'm doing that inside. Ooh, all the lights going on. Ooh.
Did you wrap up?
Next
Okay.
Yeah, essentially I created my own bridge. It works fine. I haven't had any read-write problems yet, and I've left it running for like quite some time. It's actually kind of fun. I had, everyone knows Jack Skinner. I'm sure a few of you do. He's probably going to turn up soon. There was one of the conferences I was at where he was printing stuff on the printer while I had it running in my hotel room. I had it sitting there, and he's sending through transactions, and it was just searching it using my merchant credentials because it's on GitHub. And yeah, it was literally printing out receipts of saying Jack rules and whatever else he was printing. I was kind of like, yeah, that's kind of fun. But yeah, I created my own bridge using SQLite, which works fine. It's all running. The code for all this is sitting on my GitHub. The code for all my demos is sitting on GitHub, github.com/developersteve. So you can all go grab it. You can all go break it. Tell me how I can make it better. Make it better. Yeah, please feel free to go grab it. All the code's on there. Now, I'm using PHP on the Ewan. I wasn't going to tell you about that. I'm using PHP on the Ewan via a cron job. There's a number of ways to do this. That's just the way that I'm using it because it works. You can do like a registration where you register the device IP and push messages down from a web server, from any type of server. You could also push messages down from a mobile app if you wanted to. Like, there's a few different ways you could do it. The Ewan actually comes pre-baked with Python, which I did get working, and then tried to get it running on the Ewan itself, and realized there's one library that I needed to work with the Braintree SDK that I wasn't going to get installed into OpenWRT. Ended up using PHP, it works. I have the code for Python and PHP inside the repo for this, so please again, go get it, go play with it. So the demo, I don't carry it with me anymore because it has been retired. It's done well. It's done 7 countries, so. Basic website. And yeah, it's the same demo. This is actually running PHP on the website. There's that card number again. And the printer itself. Now, fun fact, when I got that LCD screen, I actually wrote a program to do Space Invaders on it. It was an LCD, I'm like, wow, I can use Space Invaders. Anyway. Yeah, receipt prints out. It was actually, I demoed this, it was interesting, I demoed this at Drupal South. When we were still all together. I took this down to Drupal South and did a demo of it, and I just finished my talk. I had a number of devs come up to me afterwards, normal for a conference, asking me all these really weird questions though, and I'm like, oh, what's it? Turns out that they've actually started a company called Equium, making basically little off-the-shelf e-commerce printers similar to that. In fact, they use the same thermal printer from it, just with different circuitry. So I was like, yay, someone's got the same idea. Anyway, that's the printer demo. So here's some other sort of future tech stuff we've got coming up, which it's an interesting space. IoT, I think, as an industry has grown to the point where it's started to splinter off into sort of little sub-industries. But here's some sort of future stuff that I've got coming, well, seeing sort of an emergence of. And I'm going to put wearables into this because I think this is still a relatively new space. Mostly because I think largely there's still not a lot of, it's a very emerging space. And I think the new Android, the way Android Wear is constantly adding new features in, no one knows how this hardware is going to end up at the moment. And like I've got, this is the Moto 360. It's still a relatively new functional space. Like some devices have 3 cameras in it, some devices have, now they're going to have Wi-Fi. It's like, wow, they're not going to connect to my phone anymore, they're going to connect straight to a network. So relatively new to see how this industry emerges and how people are wanting to use the tech. I think that's the big thing, is it's still so new that the industry doesn't know how people are going to use this stuff. And these things are a great example of how these things sort of know more about us than we know about ourselves. The first thing this thing did for the first week I was wearing it was tell me I wasn't walking enough. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm getting out of the plane now. Interestingly enough, these things don't really cater to time zone changes, particularly going back in time. Well, you know, traveling from here to San Francisco, for example, going back 15 hours, it's like, oh, you just done all your steps. And it's like, no, I haven't. That was yesterday. But yeah, still an emerging space, and I'll be interested to see where something like the Apple Watch is able to hopefully add some type of benchmark and add some type of base functionality to the Android space, which I think Android needs it. Android needs that platform to sort of say, yeah, here's the benchmark, now we can build it out. And again, I think it's about user adoption, just to see how users want to use wearables. Something I found really, really exciting last year, I actually built three IoT shirts just to show you could basically build IoT into anything, is e-textiles, which is a whole new, there's a fashion hack happening about a month in Sydney, which is basically IoT inside fashion, which was interesting. I was like, oh wow, fashion hack. Yeah, it's a whole new way to integrate sort of IoT things around us. The big problem with IoT at the moment is power, like getting enough power to power enough functionality for any sort of period of time and then showing some type of interaction. So that I'm interested to see where that goes. But this stuff here is produced by a company in New York who I was talking to last year to see if I could get some type of interactive shirt while I'm doing presentations, in a safe way, have tweets come up and show audience interaction while I'm on stage. Yeah, in a safe way. I was mindful of that. That could be a whole thing. But yeah, they can do like a whole front panel of a shirt, basically, while you're on stage. The only thing was they said that they had to tether me to a wall to do it. And I was just like, yeah, I'm good. We'll probably wait for that one. But they're doing basically like small panels that you can interact with Bluetooth. So you can send messages to it, interact with it in whole different ways. You'll probably even start selling advertising on shirts while people are walking around. It's probably getting a bit too far ahead of us. And of course, these two guys in the front row did this thing at Battle Hack Melbourne. Yeah, I'm going to single you out again. At Battle Hack Melbourne this year, we ran in January. The team there basically produced a cyclist hoodie that used a two floorers, a spark core, 2 accelerometers, 3 meters of wiring, a whole bunch of LED strip lights, 2 LiPo batteries. Basically, while you're cycling, while you're riding along, accelerometers detect you slowing down, put brake lights on, put your arm up, indicators come on, and you have directional lights in the wrist, so you can set where you need to go, and it will tell you when to turn as you're riding along. They did this in 24 hours. These two down here, not singling them out, but these two down. It was pretty amazing, and I got back at the venue at like 4 in the morning, and then there's one of them laying on the ground like sewing stuff into a shirt, and there was wires everywhere. It was a heritage listed building, so there was a few moments of panic when the building admin realised, and it was fine. The demo they did at like 5 AM in the morning in the streets of Melbourne with a GoPro taped to the back of a broom handle on the back of the bike. Not at all suspicious at 5 in the morning on a Sunday morning. That was pretty funny. But you buy the hoodie using PayPal, and then you can upgrade its functionality, which was interesting because I never kind of considered upgrading IoT functionality inside a project, which was a really interesting spin on it. And it got everyone's attention. It was so cool. Anyway, they're going to go on sale with it soon. one day. So, this is a whole new thing. So this is future stuff, and we saw a bit of an emergence of this last year. So in that sort of extreme, less than 1%, but thinkables. Now you think that would be a good idea, right? No. Okay. Yeah, we saw thinkable start to come up, and so this came out in November. This basically detects how zen you are and awards you points. It gamifies your relaxation. So it awards you points based on how zen you're feeling, and yeah, basically teaching users to think their way into a user experience. So it creates a whole new way and a whole new industry for us to start to build on ways that users can start to connect with technology. And of course, CES this year, I was not expecting how much Internet of Car things there were, but this is a really, really booming industry. Like every car manufacturer has a way for us to swipe and interact with our cars, like swiping dashboards, waving at our sunroofs. Like there's a whole new ways, a whole new user interfaces inside these cars, which was phenomenal. And everyone's got some type of different user interface. BlackBerry's come back. BlackBerry now has in the car with Ford. I was like, wow, okay. And apparently they're like one of the best interactive experiences you're going to be getting inside the car. Interestingly, before CES in November, I was talking to a big insurance company in Melbourne. I did a talk to some of their staff and basically said, Internet of Car things is a whole new way for you to interact with your users and create a customized quote. So you can basically tailor a package based on how the user drives their vehicle, how the user maintains their vehicle. There's a whole new way that you're going to be able to interact and gather data and use that data. AMI now does something very, very similar with a mobile app. So you put the mobile app on the dash, and as you drive around, they know how fast you're going and how often you're driving, and they're using that to sort of tailor quotes. There's insurance companies starting to do that now all over the world before this sort of starts to boom. So really interesting space where I think, again, you're going to be able to offer services and products and services in whole new ways. It's a fast-moving industry, though. I travel a lot. I go to a lot of conferences, and it takes a lot for me to sort of get in that wow stage. But oh, there it is. I basically got this. So this is the ESP8266, and come up and see me after. You can have a look sort of closer, but you can see how tiny that is. Like it's literally half the size of a postage stamp. These are worth about $4. It has Wi-Fi built in. That has Wi-Fi. 32 bits of memory. It doesn't run Arduino. It actually runs BASIC. Anyone remember BASIC?
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah. First time I heard that, I was just like, wow, really? BASIC's back? It runs BASIC. You can run Lua on it, and there is a hack now to get Arduino to run on it. I got that in January. That's the Dash 1. So 3 weeks ago, I got the Dash 3. That's smaller again, has more memory, still has Wi-Fi, and they're $2. Literally, you can buy these by the bag full. Like in 3 months, it went from that to that. So you can think by the end of the year, I'm probably going to be getting like connected Wi-Fi dust. Like we're literally just blowing a thing on it. It's connected. So there's going to be whole new ways of us connecting. Of course, I didn't talk about this one, but in Australia we have, this is basically our PayPal here device. I don't know if everyone's seen this. This now has an SDK available, so you can build your own mobile apps and talks directly to this. So you can have, at a restaurant, you can have a set menu, select on a device, hit pay, and hand this to the user to swipe their credit card. They put in their PIN number, and that's it. You can buy these over the counter for $140. It connects to your phone, tablet via Bluetooth, and it's good to go. Officeworks sell them, and Dick Smith's at the moment. But yeah, Officeworks, straight over the counter. I took these, so Australia is one of the few countries that actually has this particular device available. I showed it when I was in New Zealand recently, and they were like, wow, we want that. But yeah, these are here now, like these are ready to go. These have been here has been here for a while. But yeah, where we're going with this type of stuff, like by the end of the year, literally I will have connected dust. And that is me. Thank you. Questions? Any questions?
When do we get diners?
Diners?
Yeah. Through Braintree and PayPal.
Diners cards?
Yeah.
We have that now, don't we?
Only if they're discovered.
Okay. I'll get back to you on that one. I thought diners as in, where's the pizza?
Sorry.
Okay,
follow-up question, when do we get pizza knuckles?
It's a round,
race condition.
Yeah.
it's a topic that may need a round table discussion. Round,
No, I like it.
Do I have to form a committee?
form a committee.
Yeah.
Do I have to bring business cat back?
Yes, right now.
Which industries do you reckon are ripe for IoT adoption?
I think at the moment, that's a good question. I think at the moment protocol is still, it's still a really large topic. It's like there's no standard protocol across all the platforms. And I saw, what was I reading yesterday, where they were basically talking again, protocol needs to be sorted out before any of these devices can start to talk to each other and, protocol, I think, needs to be settled first. There needs to be some sort of standard protocol across the device so that they can start to talk to each other, and then I think we'll start to see big booming industry. In saying that, I think wearables is the forefront. Like, users have started to accept that everyone's got smartwatches on, and these things know more about us than, it's going to keep telling me that I need to drink more water and walk more, and I'm just going to be like, yeah, okay, whatever. But I think wearables are at the forefront at the moment. Yeah, hang on.
Oh, sorry, I can't see that.
That's all right.
I've heard interesting things about the new PCI compliance version 3. There's some things about, like, if you're doing more than $20,000 in transactions, you have to do this quite in-depth form and have external penetration tests.
Yep. Actually, yeah, PCI stuff from Braintree, like we have entire teams working on that. We've got the PayPal as well working on that sort of stuff. Interestingly, I just started reading through the huge PCI 3.1 standardized document that came out in January. There's a lot of reading inside that. I haven't got to that bit yet, and I can definitely get back to you with the response with that. But yes, then, I mean, we're globally, Braintree and PayPal both like the highest level of PCI you can possibly get wherever we can get it, and we constantly tokenize inside Braintree. Some of the services tokenize inside PayPal, and we constantly have external parties basically testing, compliance testing all our everything, from algorithms through to, and the algorithm inside the token, the Braintree token, is extensive. I don't even want to know what it is because I don't want to be able to tell anyone. But yeah, it's really well, highly encrypted. Yeah. Hang on, Michael's.
I'm just interested in the IoT stuff that's shown here. What kind of adoption rates do you think you can see when we use it? Just given that users have to adopt it and users break things.
Yeah.
And some of those things are really quite different ways of interacting, like with the cars or
Yeah. And I think it was interesting. I guess the most interesting one I saw IoT device was of course Google Glass, where we saw users going, yes, I really want it. Like, it's such limited, no one can get it. And then all of a sudden, when more people started getting it, they're like, yeah, no, we don't like that anymore. So yeah, it's interesting to see user adoption, to see how they're wanting to use it. And I guess Android Wear is a good example of that. It's like Samsung was basically testing the market when they released their first one. It was like, how are users going to use this? We don't know. We'll just release something and see where it goes. And now we're seeing like all these manufacturers are bringing out devices going, are you going to use it for running? Are you just going to use it to get notifications? And user breaking things is always like the biggest worst case, because once it's out in the marketplace, you then have to try and either adapt it or release a new version of it. So there's always that as well. Adoption-wise, again, I think wearables are kind of the forefront of that. And it will be interesting to see what other devices sort of start to appear, and it all comes down to, of course, user being comfortable using it and willing to pay for it. That offers some sort of basic functionality that they're gonna want to keep using. Has to make their life better. Yes, and then.
Yeah. In your slides, you have quite a good, examples of Internet of Things with apps. It's interesting that you didn't include the part about Internet of Things for robots.
Yeah, that's still really super new.
Because I saw a thing that came to my friend on Fiverr. They were telling me about the world's first family robot that just came over in America.
Yeah.
Called Jibo.
Yeah.
It's the first one.
Some of them, robots.
What are your thoughts on that one?
And I guess the Roombas were probably one of the first in that space to have like household robots.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, scary topic. Yeah, household robotics. And look, Roombas were great, and they still are. I guess in that whole space, again, it sort of comes back to standardization, and there's no.
Yeah.
It's still a really futuristic space of like, hey, I've got a robot. It's not something generally. Interesting is I've been over to friends' houses and I've seen them, like they've got Roombas and all sorts of variations of them sitting in a corner, and they're all dusty because they don't use them like beyond about once. Because it kind of added a bit of value for a little while, and it was a novelty, and hey, it was like what, $300, $400 at the time.
Yeah.
And then they just didn't use it because it was not easy, and they'd have to get around furniture, and it was still clunky, and the interface wasn't a good experience for them to be able to use it. They'll get there. I just don't know that they're there now.
Will
that's
this
what
room
she said.
always be dusty? Like, because it's like a hairdresser. If there's only one hairdresser in town, he's got the worst haircut because who's going to cut his hair?
That's right.
So a room should always be dusty because
That is true. Unless there's a cat sitting on it, and that's a whole other topic.
in a shark suit, right? Yeah.
But like you said about the user adoption thing, how do you know? It's still an issue anyway to begin with. Right? It's just a matter of time before you see it. It
Yeah.
comes to fruition anyway.
That's
like
right.
any novelty, Internet of Things is still a novelty in its own right anyway.
Yeah.
So it's all about seeing what they like and how they go, and everything communicates with each other.
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
about getting something out there and seeing how users are going to use it and break it.
That's right. Yeah.
Most
And-
users don't actually know what they want anyway. They'll tell you what they think they want, and they don't want that.
Well, you
Yeah.
can personalize it too. Like,
It
that's
doesn't
what-
matter. It doesn't matter. Like the Google Glass is a perfect example. People don't know what they want. They'll tell you what they think they want. It's not what they want.
Yeah, that's true.
You have to
that's
tell
true.
them what they want. Generally. I know that sounds horrible, but it's true.
It's true, it's true. That's how you actually find out from the facts it speaks for yourself, right? It's just a great prototype, but then once you've done it, then only then the market, you penetrate the market, test it
Yeah.
yourself and see if it's working or not. Then you know that something else is not right. They come up with that, right? That's how you know, right? That's how you get the figures out. Right. Yeah.
I have something to give you all too from somebody. Sorry, Will was going to ask.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, now that you've retired the printer, what's your next project?
Aha! It's a robot. No.
Oh, thanks. This is a funny idea.
It's a robot.
There's a
No,
son of
it's
the
a
support
Bluetooth.
right there.
I'm actually going to be focusing more on tokenization for the rest of the year, because it is sort of becoming a very prominent topic in a lot of developer circles, and most people don't really know what it is. Like, it's still a relatively new space. It's tokens.
It's the act of making credits.
Yeah, it's tokenization is basically like the encryption of a PAN or personal identification number inside an encrypted algorithm that you basically is unique to the merchant, to the user, that you can encrypt and pass back around, and only those credentials are unlockable from that merchant, from that core user. It's basically a really secure authentication method. It's a really, really emerging, very highly compliant space. The document is really big. It takes a lot of reading. I got 15 hours when I tried to send it down Monday that I can read a little more about it, but yeah, it's a very, very involved space, very secured space. But yeah, I'll be talking more about that sort of going forward, focus on that, and a couple other topics. So this is coming up in Sydney on the 2nd of June. I'll be there on a panel, and I've been given a free code to give everyone free tickets if anyone wants to go. So in Sydney, I can get you the code. Let me just access my email quickly.
You got plugs You must have a really suspect email.
I didn't want to display it all on the screen. Alright, Telstra Guest is the code to register for I Love API's APAC. Really fun event. It will be, I'm getting a whole bunch of emails come through. Let me plug that. And of course, pizzas are here, so I'll probably stop talking about this. There we go. It'll be really fun, and because APIs are involved, it will be really well connected. Anyway, pizzas are here, so I'll be around. Please come and have a chat.